Hey Synthwaver, Alonzo here. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 drum grooves by the awesome band The Midnight, so you can learn how to apply them to your own tracks. Make sure to download the accompanying MIDI files for all of these grooves by following the link in the description. Also, get your free account at synthwavedojo.com today and watch my videos neatly organized and without ads. All of the grooves we'll cover today and their corresponding MIDI files include the original tempo. Use your ears in case you're going to apply them in projects that have a way higher or lower tempo than the original. First up, we have Los Angeles and Sunset at 116 BPM. This is how it sounds. Great. This is the groove for both tracks. It's exactly the same one, just that Los Angeles is in the tempo of 116, while Sunset is in 114 BPM. But the groove is exactly the same, and it is very simple. We have a kick playing on the 1 and the 3, snare on the 2 and 4, which is a standard rock and roll backbeat, and the hi-hat pattern is also very simple, just playing 8th notes with accents on the downbeats. Here you can see the accents that I've created by changing the velocities of the notes. Okay, so the downbeats have a stronger velocity than the upbeats, and they are not all exactly the same. It just tweaked them to make them just a little different one from the next. Great. That's Los Angeles. Let's take a look at Days of Thunder. This one's in the tempo of 162 BPM, which is very fast. Sounds like this. Once again. This is a very interesting groove and has a couple of very nice things going for it. Let's start at the bottom. We have the kick drum just playing this syncopated pattern that repeats every 2 bars. We have the snare playing on the 2 and 4, our standard rock and roll backbeat. Okay, the hi-hats are also playing 8th notes as in the previous drum groove, and also have an accent on the downbeat, while the offbeats are a little quieter. In here, towards the end, on the last quarter note, we have an open hat as an accent. It only happens here towards the end. Additionally, there's a tambourine just accenting the groove here and there. Okay, so it's a 2-bar pattern, very sparse, with just 3 notes being played. Very cool. It serves as icing on the cake. One thing that I forgot to mention on Los Angeles and Sunset is that this Los Angeles and Sunset groove, well, still at this tempo, it plays very well. It is very simple. You would be tempted to say, for my drum parts, for my tracks, I just need something more complicated so it will sound better, so it's better music. Not necessarily. Simple, at least for me, always works best. Start very simple, and if you need to, spice things up. But consider that The Midnight, both of these tracks, I think they have more than 30 million plays on Spotify, and their drum grooves are as simple as can get. Kick on the 1 and 3, snare on the 2 and 4, and hi-hats playing 8th notes with accents. That's pretty much it. You don't need much more than this to write a worldwide hit, to produce music that will stand the test of time. All right, let's take a look at Vampires. That's in the tempo of 115. Here we go. right, very simple. This one has a 1-bar kick pattern that has starts with a downbeat and then a couple of syncopated notes. Then it repeats on every bar. The snare, as is normal, on the 2 and 4, the rock and roll backbeat. Now the hi-hats, this is the first time, at least in this video, that we're gonna play 16th notes. And just as with the other 8th note patterns, the velocity of these 16th notes is not straight. I am playing, let's say, with a higher velocity on the, where was that? On the downbeat and on the end. Example here, so you can see that. While the other notes in between, the 2nd and the 4th 16th notes, are quieter. And that gives the music a more of a human feel, and so it doesn't sound so drum machiney, which is fine for certain kinds of music, certain styles, but at least the way the Midnight do it, most of their hi-hats have accents, which gives the impression that they are played by a drummer, or at least groove more. And one tip, if you want your 16th note patterns to sound convincing or more real, then make sure not to play, when you have the snare playing on the 2 and 4, get rid of the note that plays the hi-hat, because for this kind of pattern, a drummer cannot play the snare drum and the hi-hat at the same time. All right, next up, the Comeback Kid, 118. This is how it sounds. Once more. Great. Let's start at the bottom. Kick. A very nice combination, as we've been seeing, from a combination between downbeats and syncopated notes here and there, but nothing too crazy. And again, it's a very simple 1-bar pattern that repeats 4 times. Snare on the 2 and 4. Hi-hats, again, 8th notes with the accents on the downbeats. Cool. And this one, as accents, has 2 kinds of claps. The first one hits on the 4th quarter note of the second bar, this one, and then we have a different kind of clap playing on the 4th quarter note of the 4th bar. Now this one, if you see here closely, this one is just a little bit ahead of the beat, just to kind of mimic what the Midnight have going on for this second clap in their original, the Comeback Kid. Now, if this doesn't serve you, of course, you can slide it to align with the grid. It depends on what kind of sound you're using. But in any case, just know that you can slide notes around just to anticipate and make the groove feel better. The second clap is anticipated, like that. Cool. The Comeback Kid. Now, Jason is very interesting. Jason is in the tempo of 163. Let's take a listen. Once more. In case you hadn't noticed, Jason, at least the drum groove, is very much inspired by the drum groove of the track Maniac from the Flashdance movie soundtrack. It is a variation of that, but it's very similar with the cowbells and those like rim shots or side stick hits. It's a little bit different, but it's kind of the same feel and groove. So the kick is very simple. It's a 2-bar pattern consisting of certain notes on the downbeat, as well as some syncopated notes. The snare, once more, playing the rock and roll backbeat. The hi-hats are very simple, 8th notes with accents. And the color and the accents come from a tambourine, a clap, and a cowbell, so let's pay attention to that. Okay, so here's our cowbell. The cowbell consists of a 2-bar pattern. On the first bar, it's playing a syncopated note, but on the second bar, it starts on the downbeat and then plays a syncopated note. Kind of like as if we did this. But then got rid of it. Because you need to be careful with elements such as the tambourine and cowbell, that if you use them too much, they can become tiring, overwhelming, and mask all the other elements just because they draw so much attention. So it's a good approach to create some kind of groove in the accents, but then see if you can take something away and still have it sound the same or have the same impact. Just again, not to overwhelm the listener and the groove too much. So that's the cowbell. Very cool. Now we also have a tambourine playing on the, what's this, the 3rd beat of the 2nd and the 4th bars. Again, just a very nice touch, like a splash of sound, very nice accent. And the thing that, at least for me, steals the show is, well, this says Tom 2, but in reality, well, I'm not going to change it. This is a side stick or cross snare sample. If you can hear it. And it plays this very interesting role on the 1st and 3rd bars. The way that I did this roll, I had to experiment and try a few things because I was getting close, but not quite. So I knew that this kind of roll would have to be either 32nd notes or 64th notes. I tried both, and it seemed to me like 64th notes sounded better, but it still was just a little different. The speed that it had and how it flowed and sounded was not the same. So I tried and experimented with, instead of 32nd or 64th notes straight, I tried the triplet variants for both, and I found out that if I used a 32nd note triplet on my grid, that's exactly what I needed to get the sound, well, the same. Right. Very cool. Very nice. All right, my friends, this is all that I had for today. I hope that you found this useful. And make sure to download these MIDI files for free and use them in your productions. Of course, if you want to use this groove, it has a lot of elements. You can feel free to mute or to delete the elements as you see fit. And if you want another kick here and there or whatever, of course, do it. Use these MIDI files as a starting point, edit them, make them your own, but at least you know you can start from a great place, from some drum grooves that sound very good, made by professionals. And I've also included in the zipped file with the MIDI files a text that tells you the mapping that I'm using here between my drums and the MIDI notes, because most likely if you open those MIDI files in whatever drum plugin you use, the mapping is going to be different. So you can just there's two things you can do. One is just move the notes in the MIDI files to where they sound appropriate to you in the right place, like the right kick drum, whatever. Or the other thing is change the mapping in your plugin or VST, so you can use these files without editing. It's up to you. Both options will work just fine. All right. Once again, I hope you guys found this useful, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.